Sacred Space, the podcast, has been recorded on Gubbi Gubbi country. Myself and guests acknowledge and pay respect to the elders past, present and emerging. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Welcome to Sacred Space, the podcast. I am Tanika, your host, and this is a space for you to tune in and become educated, evolved, and expanded on all things generational healing, personal development, and spirituality. This is a space where I'll get beautiful, like-minded guests on to speak into their stories and their wisdom, as well as hearing mine. So take a big, deep breath into your belly, get anchored, get grounded, and let's get into this week's episode. Hello, beautiful, and welcome to the podcast. Today is the day after Valentine's Day if you're listening to this live, and I thought, why not have an episode based around self-love practices and how to show your self-love, especially at this time if you feel like maybe you don't have a partner, maybe you don't have like a group of friends to do Valentine's Day. This is just going to be full of a couple of tools for you to lean on to show your self-love, to feel deeply connected to yourself so that you're just feeling really good. And if you do have a partner, just like I do, these are still incredible tools to implement because it's so important to show our self-love and connect to ourselves and fill up our own cup before we're like filling up anyone else's. So we're going to start with the Oracle card of the day. I got the card number 24 called Realignment. Feel the ebb and flow of life. Now, next week's episode that drops, I pull an oracle card in as well. And what I find really interesting about both of the oracle cards for these weeks is it's a beautiful goddess woman. She's like in the ocean, but there's a seal in it. And I feel like I actually want to look up what like spirit animal seal means, because I feel like I'm seeing seals freaking everywhere lately. And it's just like coming up for me so much. So I'm going to actually look into that. But yeah, I just want to share that. Let's share the oracle card though. So in the turmoil of life, it is easy to be carried away on a current that is taking you away from where you want to be. Mother of Water comes to help you swim back into the flow of divine alignment. Life is a sea of energetic forces pushing and pulling. If you feel battered and bruised and as though you are grasping for air, Goddess is here to guide you to still waters. Feel her soothing touch. Let her help you find practices and ways of being that will keep you centered. She will realign you. Mother of Water knows what it is to ebb and flow. If you are aligned with the push and pull, you can flow with it, strong and unscratched. Your body is energy. Listen to its natural rhythms and remember to flow with them. Goddess may send you a guide in the form of one of her water creatures. Oh my gosh, guys, I just said this, but anyway. Seal may come into your life, perhaps in your dreams or as a picture, sculpture, or in the flesh. In whatever form it comes to you, Goddess will be reminding you to pay attention to your deep inner feelings, your imagination, and your intuition. I literally just said the seal's been coming up for me so much. Like I literally saw a seal when I was in South Australia, and then I pulled the card for like in our next week's episode, seal, and then I pulled this one, seal, and then I saw one of my clients has a seal tattoo that I've never noticed. I just feel like they're coming to me from everywhere, so that's super interesting that came through. It says, no more fighting with yourself. Create time in your day or in your spiritual movement or breathing practice to hold and notice the uncomfortable emotions and thoughts that may arise. Be aware of the discomfort and accept it for what it is. Perhaps it is sadness, regret, shame, or guilt. Welcome it with compassion, for you are the host and it is merely a passing guest. In its own time, it will move away from the spotlight of compassionate attention and float away as a cloud. Dedicate time to using the power of noticing, accepting, and compassion for whatever arises for you each day during your daily practice. If at times tears flow or the body needs to rock or move, let it do so. Move with the tides of emotion and feel their flow. In time, you will notice they are only waves and not the depths of the entire ocean. So beautiful, this card. So beautiful. Anyway, let's get into just like how I show my self-love. I feel like I just want to have like a casual chat just about like ways that I love to tune into showing my self-love, especially if I'm in a space of like not feeling super, say, harmonious or balanced or connected to myself, and the practices that I lean on to really support me to come back into my body. So the first thing that I always come back to is the breath. And this is so simple, and I almost feel like a lot of people think like it doesn't matter that much, but honestly, connecting with your breath is the most powerful, like, fucking thing that you could ever do. I know for me, there's been so many times where sometimes you can get like caught up in that wave, as this card would say, of like all the things and all the emotions and like whatever might be going on in your life, because at the end of the day, we all experience life as life is, right? Like, it's not always just like beautiful flowy journey. Like, we have those bumps in the road, and something that I notice within myself is like the breath is the first thing that I'll forget about, but equally it's the first thing I'll come back to, in that we shallow breathe when we're stressed. When we're in a state of stress, of overwhelm, of overdrive, of busyness, of, you know, creeping up to burnout, it's usually linked to us not breathing properly. So really coming back to your breath is like such an incredibly fucking powerful practice for you. And I just do this by holding one hand on my heart, one hand on my womb, and literally just like imagining I'm breathing in through my heart and out through my womb. And it grounds your energy so much. And it's pulled me out of some like crazy, not like crazy spaces, but like spaces where I am feeling that overwhelm, or like anxiety is really coming up. And it's just so beautiful because you can do this like even in public if you have to. And like people don't even have to know that you're like visualizing that in your mind. Do you know what I mean? I feel like a really cool practice though that I want to like lean into backing off of that is more like self-love practices in the form of using a yoni egg or yoni steaming, or really bringing your awareness down to your yoni area. Because a lot of my clients will ask me about like, how do I use a yoni egg, or like, what is a yoni egg, or like all of these things, but there's not that much information out there, I guess, about yoni eggs. So I'm going to leave in the links below. Oh my gosh, I just lost my, oh my God, what are they called? The show notes below. I'm going to leave in the show notes below a link to a website where it sells really high quality, beautiful handmade yoni eggs. And you can, I think, get a discount code. I think I have a discount code that I can leave down there as well to get 10% off. I'm pretty sure, like, I hope now that I've said it. But anyway, Yoni Pleasure Palace, you may have heard of them before. They have heaps of like great information over on their website and things too. But the most incredible practice that I have found on my self-love journey is the use of bringing my awareness down to this space on my body. And this equally is so deeply related to womb healing and healing trauma and connecting to yourself and all the things. But using a yoni egg has been so pivotal in my journey, because actually, I'm just going to like go to the start instead of like jumping into like how it was pivotal. I'm going to actually go from the start and like the fear that was coming up for me and like the judgment that was coming up for me before using it. So prior to ever like owning a yoni egg, I would always see people have them, or like not always, but you know, I'd see it pop up every now and then on like some healing like Instagram page, like a healer's Instagram page or whatever it might be. Like I'd seen it like around, right? I knew that they were a thing. And I would always like be so judgmental. Like I would just think like, why the fuck would you use that? That's so fucking disgusting. Like, I don't know, all of those thoughts would just come up for me of like, why would you put that in your yoni? Like, I just can't understand why you would do that. And I couldn't understand why it was healing. I couldn't understand any of it. And I also thought, oh my God, what if it gets lost in there? Like, this is prior to actually understanding that nothing can get lost in our cervix. Like, I just had no idea. So when I had done a lot of womb healing, I had done a lot of like breath work, I'd done somatic healing, working on things like that. And it just happened to be that I thought, you know what? My next step is actually a yoni egg. So I had to break down a lot of those walls. I had to break down and rewrite a lot of those narratives that I had around it not being normal, or it being gross, or it being like weird, or people are going to judge me if I use one, or like anything like that. I had to break down all of that to get to the space to actually use one, right? So with that, I then bought my first yoni egg. I got a shungite one, which is a crystal that supports with like protection and cleansing and clearing and trauma release and things like that. And I also got a tiger's eye crystal wand at the same time. And I because that's like about like spirituality and like healing and like things like that. And I knew there was a lot within my womb space that I knew needed healing, that I knew needed to come to the surface, but nothing was sort of supporting me in that. It was kind of like one of those things where I really knew I had to go deeply within me and go on my own healing journey, like solo, to find what it is that was there, and to support the shift in that. And I'm not saying like we always need to get to the core of every single thing, because I don't believe that we need to get to the core of everything. I've believed that in the past, that like we need to know the core of it to heal it. I don't believe that anymore. But I also, what came up for me was something that I feel like I wouldn't have been able to access, to free myself from, to like heal. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. So anyway, I got the shunga and the tiger's eye, and I remember when it arrived, and I was like, it was actually like a full moon when it arrived, which was perfect because I could cleanse them and stuff before I used them. And I just was like, oh my God, like it's actually fucking here. Like I'm going to use a fucking yoni egg. Like it was actually a really big thing, because I've shared in a previous episode, or maybe a couple, like I've never worn a tampon before. I had a lot of fear around this area in my body. I just have had a lot of like things I've had to move through with this area of my body. So like using a yoni egg, even though they're not like that big, it was like, oh my gosh, like it's almost like a control thing, I think. So I've got one with a string, so that even though you can't lose it, so that I couldn't lose it at all. And yeah, I remember like the first time I used it, and I just did like a breathwork practice with myself, just guided myself through it. I've obviously learned a lot of tools along the way of my like journey of like doing breathwork facilitation and like all the things. So I guided myself through that, and just had like beautiful music playing and things. And oh my goodness, like some of the things that came to the surface for me just from like the one time I used it were just like absolutely fucking like next level of like, oh my gosh, this all makes sense. I just felt so deeply connected to myself, to my divine feminine. And yeah, I guess that's like where it started with the yoni eggs. And like honestly, and now I have another one, I have a clear quartz one as well, so I have like 2 different yoni eggs. But what I find like so powerful about the use of these, also it's so funny because I'm like, I'm gonna get on and talk about like self-love, and then I'm just like completely riffing about yoni eggs, so I hope that you're like here for it. Yeah, so I have like my yoni eggs now, and what I find like really interesting about it is like it actually is like the most fucking beautiful self-love practice that I think I've ever really like used, is like a yoni egg, because you can put one in and you can, and like be very intentional with it, like always setting an intention, always the intention to like connecting with yourself, or like if you're using it for trauma release, like just allowing it to hold you and like support you and all the things. But I think the most beautiful thing for me is like using a yoni egg has been the most like productive fucking like divine feminine embodiment ritual that I've been able to implement into my life, because once you have it within you, you don't have to like necessarily like just sit with it. And although I recommend doing that your first few times, because a lot of energy, it's like it activates a lot of energy within your womb space, and you don't understand what I'm talking about until you use a yoni egg, that it literally is like it just switches on your energy centers within like your base and your womb, and you are full, like just, it's like this completely spiritual experience. Like I can't even explain it. But now the way I love to use yoni eggs is like putting my yoni egg in and then doing a yoga flow, or putting my yoni egg in and then doing creation of some sort, like whether it be art, whether it be content creation for my work, or whatever it might be. I feel like the yoni egg is just like so pivotal, because it brings in that like self-connection, right? Like you're connecting in with your feminine essence, you're connecting in with your creativity, you're connecting in with the truth of who you are, and it activates that part of yourself that maybe you're suppressing, or maybe that you can't necessarily access, and you know, until you've like gone there, I guess. So that's like one really beautiful, like backing off of breath work, one really beautiful practice that I highly recommend. And like I said, it doesn't have to be like any certain way, like really put to the side like all the stories that you have around it. And of course, like I said, I had to do a lot of work around like actually using one, because I thought like that's a bit fucking weird and like all the things. But yoni eggs actually are like an ancient traditional Chinese medicine tool that women have used for many, many years. And honestly, it's something that I just think is so important for women to implement into like as a self-love practice. And like I said, it can be very productive in that you're walking around the house and doing cleaning, in that you're doing your yoga flow, in that you're doing like content creation for work, or creating, like doing something, I don't know, like you can do so much with it. And it's such a deeply like self-connection practice. But I also want to add, like with using a yoni egg as well, it is toning your pelvic floor. So it's actually like really beneficial for your like physical body too, right? And like I myself have very deeply noticed it has supported me with like making love with my partner. Like it's brought like more awareness to that area. It supports with like getting wet, so like it supports in like the lubrication process of like our like libido, maybe, is that like the word, like being like getting turned on much more easier, I guess. And as I said, I've had to do quite a lot of like work around that area, and like really allowing myself to open to receive within that area due to like past experiences. And using a yoni egg has been such a beautiful gateway for me to actually enjoy pleasure from a space of actually enjoying pleasure, and not just like trying to get, like being stuck in my mind. It's like a very like bringing you into your body. So like if that's another thing you also do suffer with, whether it's like, within yourself you don't receive from yourself, or you just like are really bad at receiving, it could not even be related to sex. Like it could just be like you're like really fucking bad at receiving, like someone's giving you a gift, you're like, oh no, like take it. Like even that, like using a yoni egg is going to really support you because it's allowing you to receive like in a really safe way, and like always being intentional, like as I've said about 10 times. But yeah, I feel like there's so many benefits to that. So like definitely Yoni Pleasure Palace has like information over on their website and stuff. So like go give it a look with the link below, and I feel like that'll really support you to see if it is right for you. So another self-love practice that I am going to share with you that I do, oh my God, it's like my favorite thing to do, honestly. If you are feeling like you just want to connect in with yourself, like you just, when you just like had a big day or like a big week, or maybe you just wake up on the wrong side of the bed and you're just not completely feeling connected to yourself. Like you might still do your yoga flow, you might still do your morning breath, you might do your journaling, but you're just feeling a little bit off. Like the most beautiful thing that I love to do, and I mean, you have to have a bath for this, but if you don't have a bath, like go do a float tank or something. If you have that accessible to you. But having a goddess bath, and I actually on my insight timer, I'll leave that linked below as well, have a goddess bath meditation that is free to like access and everything. And I love to just set up my bath personally with like tea light candles around me, grabbing my favorite crystals, putting them around me, putting them in the bath as well. Sometimes I bring my yoni egg into the bath, not to use in the bath, but just to like have in the water as like a healing tool. Lighting incense if that's what you like, putting some rose petals into the water, some magnesium flakes, like get really creative. Sometimes you can get some raw milk is really good for your skin if you're into that kind of thing. It's another thing. Oh yeah, like literally tea bags are like so good in the bath, like green tea bags, like chamomile tea bags. You can get like, oh my gosh, just like so many different things. Make yourself a little face mask. My favorite sort of face mask is just like bentonite clay, a dash of water, and a little bit of like high grade manuka honey, and just putting that on my face before I get into the bath. Like thinking about what makes you feel really nice. Maybe for you it's putting some like jojoba oil in your hair, or like things like that, and literally just like putting on some nice music, maybe listening to the meditation I mentioned, not taking in a book, not taking in your phone. Like take your phone in for music, but like put it on do not disturb and have it away from you, and just like be with yourself. Like just be with yourself, allow your intuition to guide you. Maybe it is just sitting there and just like giving yourself a little bit of a massage in the bath and just like touching your own skin. Maybe it's literally just lying there and meditating. Maybe it's like, I don't know, like you just like being present with yourself. And I feel like that is like such an incredible self-love practice. And if you do it like and set up the tea light candles and stuff, like how romantic is that? Like this is all about like almost dating yourself. All of these practices, it's like coming back to like how do you like to be shown love, or like how do you like to show love, and can you do that with yourself? Like even if you don't have a bath and a float tank isn't available to you, like can you just set yourself up in front of a mirror and just give yourself a massage and just really honor your body for who she is and all the things that she does for you. Honor all of the things that your body's been through, and just like really connect in with your body on a physical level. I feel like these sort of practices are so like missed, and people just, we don't have the time, or we don't have the patience, or we don't have the privacy, or like all of these things. But finding that in those pockets of time and just like setting time aside for you to do something like this is so special and empowering for you to like really deepen your relationship to yourself and have that deep self-connection. And we know I preach deep self-connection all the time. Like I'm all like about like know your menstrual cycle, know yourself. But I also do think that this is important in that journey of maybe you don't understand your menstrual cycle yet. Maybe that still freaks you out. Maybe you can just start here and do some of these practices and then move into the cycle syncing kind of lifestyle and understanding your cycle. Like we all have our own unique journey. And I think that's also really important to remember that like on your self-love journey, there's going to be ebbs and flows. It's like the ocean. It's going to like come in like waves and then like fall back out and all the things. And it's actually just about honoring where you are on your journey. And maybe you really fucking do like adore yourself and you love yourself so much and you're like, there's nothing I would change about myself, blah, 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 blah. That is perfect. How can you deepen that even more? Or maybe you're someone who's highly self-critical. You know, loop through shame spirals of like, why aren't I good enough, or whatever it might be. And how does that just get to be okay for where you are right now, but like start implementing some things that really, really, really support you in shifting that belief. And I understand as well, like sometimes it can feel like, oh my God, there's no way I would ever love myself. Like, you know, you can get very like hopeless with it, but I promise you, like, you're not stuck where you are. We can shift from anything. It all comes back to like a choice. So like right now, maybe the choice you need to make is like, today I'm going to give myself a massage, and I'm not going to look in the mirror. I'm just going to give myself a massage. Maybe next week I'll feel confident enough to look in the mirror at myself. Yeah, I feel like that's all. I feel like I've shared some like really nice, just like tangible self-love practices that I love to implement. Definitely have a look into the Yoni egg if that's something like you feel interested in doing. Like I said, it has been so incredible for me on my journey, and I highly recommend it. And it's just, yeah, it's such a game changer. I hope you all had a beautiful Valentine's Day yesterday if you're listening to this live. If you're not listening to it live, I just hope you had a beautiful Valentine's Day and bought yourself flowers or did whatever felt really good for you just to show yourself some love. Partner or not, that's very, very important. I love you so very much, and I will be back on... Oh my gosh, I just lost my complete train of thought. I'll be back next week in your ears on Thursday morning at 5. Oh no, I've changed it to 4:44 actually. So 4:44 a.m. Have a beautiful week. I would love to hear your biggest takeaway from this episode. Or if you like listened and you're like, oh, I'm actually really interested in the Yoni egg, like let me know if you're going to like get into that. Just absolutely love to know. But I love you so much, and I'll talk to you next week. Hi, beautiful. Thank you so much for being a part of my podcast community. I have so much gratitude for you, and I would love to hear what you think about this podcast. Leave me a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or share this episode with a close friend that needs to hear it. If you leave me a review and send me the screenshot on Instagram at sacred_w_tanika_lace, I will forward you access to a free guided womb healing breathwork journey and a 15% off code to purchase any masterclasses or courses available on my website. All you have to do is leave me a review, send me the screenshot on Instagram at sacred_w_tanika_lace, and I'll forward you access to the free guided womb journey and a 15% off code. I love you so much, and I'll see you next week.